In the previous video, we made a simple pipeline configuration and run the pipeline by passing a change into master. Now we are ready to move on to configure a more complex pipeline that follows the principles of continuous integration and deployment. Here I have visualized the pipeline that we are going to build. So it will have 3 stages. They are not exactly as the build, test, deploy that is commonly used alongside CI/CD. This is because we are using a pretty modern setup where we firstly will verify that the application will pass the tests. After that, we will build a Docker image from it and publish it to the GitLab container registry. And finally, the application will be published to the Azure Web App for Containers service. Now the reason that this pipeline doesn't follow the build, test, deploy principle is that it even kinda does follow it, because before running the tests we will need to install the application, so that can be viewed as the build phase of the pipeline. And then this second stage refers to building the Docker image rather than the application. So maybe this pipeline could be phrased as the first stage could be phrased as build and test. The second phase could be phrased as containerize, as we are using the container technology here. And the last stage would be the deploy. So this is the setup we are going to be using, and this pipeline, when we get it running, it will be very effective and follow the DevOps principles. But let's first start with adding tests to the application, since we don't have them currently. In order to do that, let's access our application. Here it is. And we can make a new branch. In order to implement tests to our application. So first we need to install some dependencies, testing libraries to the application. We are going to be using Jest and additionally Supertest. So let's see. The installation probably takes a bit. While the installation is happening, we can open a new session and start making relevant changes to the repository. So we are going to need a file that will have the tests. So let's call it app.test.js. Here I have the contents that we want here. So we are going to have one test to this application. It will test the route HTTP route of the application and verify that it returns an code 200 and that the content type is text/HTML. Okay, So let's go ahead and save that file. Now we are going to install the second library in addition to Jest. Also, we need to make a change to the package.json file. The change we are going to do is add this Jest to the test script so that npm is able to run the tests. But now when we do run the tests, we can see the following thing happening. Let's see how it works. Takes a while. Okay, now yes, we are going to see that Jest did not exit after test run is completed, and additionally, well, yes, this was expected because we are currently have the whole application at this app.js file. And now this creates a problem with Jest, as it cannot sort of quit the application. So we need to separate this app.listen call and the rest of the application into two files. So we are going to make a index.js file. We are going to input there the command that will create the HTTP server, like this. And then on the app.js we will remove the, let's see, we will remove the part that will create the server, since it now is created on the other file. So instead of creating the server, we will just export this app variable here. So now when we see git status, we can see that we have now made quite a lot of modifications. We can now verify that the tests work. It's good to verify. There might be some typos I made, but it seems that now the tests are working as intended, so the application does respond to the GET request correctly. So the reason to separate the index.js and app.js file is related to some internal workings of or some details regarding the Jest and this express.js library, so we are not going to focus on that, but just the important thing is that we needed to make the change in order to the tests to run correctly. So now we can add these changes to the commit and commit the files, should I say. Now there is quite a lot. We can see now that we did add everything we needed. Okay, then let's commit the change. Okay. Finally, we want to push the changes to the remote repository. Right. So now, when we go ahead and to the GitLab user interface, we see this new branch, and let's merge it via this merge request in order to practice that. So here we can say that maybe testing and added tests to the application. This is actually a markdown editor, so we can preview what it looks like by checking this tab. Here. So if we would have a multi-developer setup, we could ask for a review from a certain developer, and he or she would get a notification that there is a merge request to be reviewed. Okay, but let's go ahead and create the merge request, and by accessing this pipeline step, we can actually see that the pipeline has run to this branch. So it seems that the default GitLab configuration runs the pipeline on every branch that is created and every pass that is created to any branch. So now we created the merge request, and we can go ahead and merge the branch. Now when we go to the master branch, here we can see our new files, and everything seems to be working as intended. And finally, we need to remember that we are still currently on the tests branch on our local Git repository, so we can go ahead and check out to master and synchronize with the remote, so fetch the changes. Now we are up to date with the remote repository since we did the merge over there. Okay, so in the next video we will start to create the pipeline that I showed in the beginning of this video.